Now. So welcome everyone. We have we're here for the Myth Q&A. If you've got any questions, go ahead and ask them in the Myth text channel, and I will make sure to let everyone know what those questions are. But we have Eric Simon, Keith Lowe, and Brian Shotton here to talk about the World of Myth Kickstarter and the upcoming Dawn of Heroes Myth game. Let's go ahead and have you guys introduce yourselves and tell us your involvement with Myth. We'll start with you, Eric.
Okay. I am Eric Simon. I am the line developer for Myth. That is sort of a recently made official title, although I have been tentatively the line developer for about a year now, and have been overseeing the development of Dawn of Heroes and plans for the World of Myth Kickstarter. I'm also the Kickstarter and crowdfunding manager for the English language side of Ulysses. So that covers a lot. It's not just Myth Kickstarters that I'm dealing with. I'm also working on the upcoming Fading Suns Kickstarter, and of course, I am doing all the data entry for the management of our backlog of fulfillment for the Myth Journeyman Kickstarter. So all of those things are things that I am doing, and more. I also manage conventions, so I've got a few hats that I wear here at Ulysses.
Just a couple. All right, Keith, how about you?
Hello, I'm Keith. I do the illustration and a lot of the design, the graphic design for Myth. Been there since the beginning, and I'm just grateful to be working on this project again, creating some new images, and so yeah, it's exciting. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And Brian.
Yeah, I'm Brian. I do the writing. I do a lot of the writing for Myth at this point, and I get to advise and help design Myth going forward. So it's very exciting.
Great. And our purpose here today is a Q&A. So if you have questions, again, please type them in the Myth chat, and we'll get to them. For now, let's get started with one that I saw on Facebook. If I can pull it up, of course. Now my computer's deciding to be real slow.
Sorry.
So it says Philip Milne says, will the new method of activating enemies remove the flavor and feel from them? Essentially, when I draw a darkness card in Dawn of Heroes, are the creatures all going to activate in the same way regardless of what they are? Will grubbers act the same way as crawlers, etc., with the only difference being what dice they use and their keywords?
So the answer to that is kind of yes. Part of the trick is that we have moved the priority. For those of you who haven't heard, we have moved priority more to the darkness cards and away from the monster types. The sort of the goal with that is making the scenario feel unique versus so for instance, you might have shamblers in a scenario, but depending on what they're paired with, that's going to change your darkness deck, because we have keywords built into the darkness cards, and you will actually have different darkness decks basically that you build with your keywords. So then the effect of that will be that shamblers might always bring a certain keyword to the darkness card, but if they're paired with something else, that changes the deck. And also one of those keywords is novice, which gives you an implication that monsters will get harder based on the darkness cards as you go up in rank. So that's going to be one of the ways that we do this. So a lot of the variety is going to be more tied to the adventure than to the monster itself. Hopefully that answers the question. Brian, did you want to add anything to that?
Sure. I think it was one of my concerns as well, to be honest with you. And I having played it and having messed with the darkness decks as they are now, I think it provides a lot of flexibility for a designer, a lot more than you might imagine right off the beginning. And so we can do a whole lot more with a monster than we could before, where before it was kind of locked into this on rails, this is how it works regardless of the situation. And so this allows the designer to really kind of give you the best version of that monster and the best opportunity to attack that monster and defend against that monster in any given situation. So it's very, very interesting.
Yeah. And also, you know, I sort of like it because one of the things is there's certainly a skill ramp up as you get used to monsters. You can say, all right, well, I know how this monster works priority wise, so this is how we're going to approach them. You know, and there is some satisfaction to that, but story wise, um, there's also great opportunity when things change in the middle of battle. Uh, Suddenly, those monsters that you thought you understood are behaving slightly differently. So,
All right. So, and just in case people are not aware, you can read all about kind of the announcement of Dawn of Heroes on the Ulysses website, ulysses-us.com, and just check out the Myth section. You'll see a blog post entitled "Designing a New Dawn for Myth," and it kind of goes into some details of a few things that are going to change. And so we're talking about those sorts of things and other things that are we're talked about in the updates for the World of Myth Kickstarter. So let's see. Here's a question. Kador asked, hard question to start. Is it too late to stop the Myth Dawn of Heroes as a new game and do a Myth 2.5? They don't like having kind of two games in the end. So why are we using Dawn of Heroes?
So I gotta say this right now, and I'll be very, very honest and upfront. It is too late to ask for that, and in fact, it was too late when Ulysses bought Myth. That the stipulation of creating a new game was part of the company's purchase of the game, and I can't say too much more about those details, but I can say that option has never been one that I had. So. That is how we are approaching it, and that is how we want to make Myth continue, and that's what we're doing.
For sure. Let's see. Tot Donetta asks, will there be a similar progression for heroes in Dawn of Heroes, like novice, journeyman, master? You kind of mentioned that a little bit. Do you have any more comments on
that? The answer is yes, and that's what we'll say for now.
All right. Let's see. A lot of people just loving to hear from you guys again. Kador also says the Keith's art is the best, makes it so unique. Torva asks, will Myth Dawn Heroes Adventures be similar to Myth 2.0 modules? If different, how so?
In general, yes, but and I've mentioned this, and I'll be talking a lot more about this in an upcoming blog post. I think it's probably going to be the next design blog that I do, will be about sort of how we're shifting the action economy to allow for more in-depth and more variety of tasks within the scenario. That's a big thing.
Nice.
I'd love to add to that if I could.
Sure.
Just in general, no specifics.
If you say something that we got to hold off on.
You have the wit, so to speak. I'll just say that I think the adventures that we're doing now are much better than the modules we put out before. I think they fill the gap that we wanted it to have at the beginning, which is a real true kind of depth RPG feel with lots of opportunity to do things and opportunities not to do things if you don't want. So I would just tell you that I think the modules or the adventures are very good.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, and see, Dane asks, will all characters be represented in Dawn of Heroes, or will some be omitted?
So that's an eventually. from a just from a design standpoint and from a release standpoint, we're not going to release everything at once, and I know that that is, a bit of a concern. That's one of the reasons that I want to, especially at the beginning, have this transition period where people can still do um, do the 2.0 rules so that they can use the old heroes. And I know that some people have asked, hey, is it possible to use the old hero decks with the new rules? That is a question that I don't really have an answer to yet. It's something that I'm going to kind of poke around at and see how it works at the table, if at all, in the coming weeks. But yeah, so the answer is we will eventually get to all of the heroes that are currently available for 2.0. And I am planning to try to mix it up so that it's not the same order that they came out for the previous versions of Myth. So you'll get, so that new players can see kind of the mainstays, but also get a taste of some of the wider variety, and the longtime players can see, perhaps some of the heroes that did need some extra stuff for them will get addressed earlier in the new version.
Have you told them what heroes are in Dawn? Starting heroes are in Dawn of Heroes yet?
I have hinted strongly, but yeah, let's go ahead and say it officially. Brian, did you want to?
Oh no, you go right ahead. You're the man.
Okay. All right. So we have.
There's a cook, right? There's the cook.
Yeah.
And then
there's Cookie with the frying pan.
Gardener, and yeah.
Now we have to do that.
Right, I know, right?
Okay, so we are doing the soldier, but it will be the Tavian soldier, which people have kind of figured out from the art that we spoiled. We are doing the Brigand, but it will be the we have said we're trying to include some more elves, and so we're actually it's not a human brigand, it's an elf brigand. Same model, but we're just saying they're an elf. So there's that. That's for lore reasons that will be coming later. We've got the same acolyte and apprentice, and then we have the female hunter. And those are the 5 heroes in the base set.
Nice. Let's see. So, Zinsider asks how much will it cost. I mean, that's something we're probably not going to get into. We probably don't know at the moment, and so we're still a little ways off on Dawn of Heroes. You'll see all that stuff once the Kickstarter starts.
Right. Yeah. I unfortunately I don't even know what prices will be. We are still deciding on components, even just for the base set, let alone stretch goals. So price is undetermined, but we want to keep it reasonable. We don't want this to be a Haven box kind of cost. So yeah, we want it to be more of a reasonable gaming kind of cost.
Cool. So Kador asked another question, kind of going back to the modules. Will the Myth Dawn Heroes modules work in Myth 2.0 and the opposite?
So that is definitely addressed in the blog post that I put up, and the answer to the first part is absolutely, that is the intention. What we're going to do is once we get to the point where we're actually starting to release those adventures, we're going to go ahead and give you, we'll make freely available a list of like the terminology matches, because there are some term changes in Dawn of Heroes, and also just a couple of tweaks for how you set up that you'll need to do, and otherwise you'll be able to play it with the 2.0 rules. Given that, I think it will be possible then to take the Dawn of Heroes rules and decks and play the old modules. I am less sure about that, but that is a thing we'll be looking at.
All right, and then he had a follow-up question. Will the adventure mode with quests still be in the game?
Yeah. Not in the way it has been. There will not be quest cards like there have been. So we're handling much more of that through the adventures.
All right. Dice Timo asks, to the current topic, what about multiple darkness cards in a scenario?
Oh, Darkness decks?
Darkness decks, sorry, yeah.
So there's one deck, and you basically build it at the beginning of the scene. And that may change throughout the course of an adventure where there are multiple scenes, but within a scene, you have a single darkness deck, and it is built based on the keywords that are listed in the adventure.
All right. Question from Dane to Brian. Would you be able to redo some Myth character videos for the final cards that came out, Alchemist, Pupil, etc.?
Well, I'll talk with Eric and the entire Ulysses team to see how they want to proceed with that. It's really up to them. It's their property, and it's they're steering the ship at this point. So I think that question is yet to be decided.
So yeah, my thinking, Brian, is I certainly don't have a problem with you doing it. I just, it's kind of up to you.
Sure.
So anyway, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So I know that some people would like some advice on how to play the Alchemist. I get that sense.
Oh, is that the question? Okay, I wasn't sure what that was exactly regarding. And so that kind of goes on, Cato asked another question, but I think this is more a question about the older stuff, and we're really trying to kind of talk about what's going on with the current World of Myth Kickstarter and the future Dawn of Heroes stuff. So, and any of your older questions, we're not gonna get into right now. So our Hagalos asks, will Dawn of Heroes implement a leveling system for heroes that allows some gear to persist so you don't have to reset every time?
Yes.
All right.
In fact, I don't think you get rid of gear at all anymore, correct?
What's that?
You don't get rid of gear at all anymore, from what I understand.
We're still playtesting that effect, so I can't say definitely. But yeah, the general idea is that you're supposed to keep stuff, which means, by the way, that treasure is going to come a little more slowly within the adventure, because otherwise you're going to ramp up a little too quickly.
All right.
But it'll feel more like a progression over time rather than we started this adventure with nothing and now we're gods and now we start again with nothing.
All right. Torva asks, there have been hints in the past about a potential town phase. Is that still a thing?
Hints may remain. It is. Boy, we've talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, Christian and I are playing with it.
Yeah. So there's work being done. It is a thing we like. I don't know if it'll happen in Dawn of Heroes itself. I'll say that.
All right. Let's see. So we had that one already. Let's see, Neil. Here's another one. Will the hero progression be card based, or something else? Let's see. This is a kind of a longer one, so I'll just read the whole thing. More about the hero progression, but will it still be card based, like add 5 novice upgrades, etc.? How about item persistence, which we kind of talked about? But most importantly, tell us about how we actually venture out into the world of myth. Is it just pick a module, or will we actually be able to travel the world map, encounter specific towns, merchants, locations, specific module quests, etc.?
So a lot of that is going to be handled in the specific adventures. So it's adventure based, but that is something that we want to expand on as we go. And so the in the long term, yes, that kind of scope is difficult to fit into a base set. But for instance, doing digital adventures enables us to do more of that. So,
All right. Sodamerk asks, any insight on if titles still exist? Are they getting a revamp?
So haven't talked about that. I can't. So sort of. There's a slight revamp, but then possibly they'll come back also as titles on top of that in the future. Brian, I don't know if you want to say more about that.
Yeah, you better have your whip ready on this one.
Okay.
Titles were in the original game tied to, you earned a title to keep loot, and since that's no longer an issue, titles have been replaced with what we call hero fate cards. Hero fate cards you can select at the beginning, or it's directed by the adventure, and then those hero fate cards provide you with an ability similar to that of a title, but it can be more focused on your needs as a hero. And then it also provides a fate recipe that helps the theme of that card. And that's, I'll stop.
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah, that's a good amount of information.
Great.
That's about right.
All right. Insider asked, I'd love to hear some details about the RPG.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so cool.
Boy, it's so I will say that is not mine to spoil. That's going to be up to Ross and when he wants to make his announcements. But Robert, as our social media person, if you want to poke him and have him pester Ross about when information will be coming out, I'll let Robert be the intermediary for that. The thing that I will say is I'd say that man, it's so cool because I want to share it. Let's just say that Ross is expanding the lore of myth, and there will be a lot of variety in the kinds of things that you can do in the world. So it's very good.
And I'll say, I did a quick play test, and it was great. It definitely had the feel of myth from what I know of it, so it was really cool. I think everyone will like it. So let's see. Cato asked, let's see, are you planning to do a yearly Kickstarter, or how will new stuff for Dawn of Heroes come out after the Kickstarter?
So that pacing is still to be determined, but the general rule of thumb that I'm going to stick to is I would like to not do more than one big Kickstarter per year. We may have smaller Kickstarters for, like monster packs or something like that, and then, but to have a big box set, I definitely don't want to do more than one a year. at least as far as the big boxes go, because I think that's, we want to be very realistic with our production and fulfillment, and also give people time to explore each thing as they go. And that's one of the reasons to have digital adventures is to fill that time between, is so we can keep giving content, but not necessarily stuff that requires printing and shipping all over the world. So.
All right. Donetta asks, will the original 5 heroes be in the core box? So we talked about that a little bit, and I think the answer was some of them, right? And then there's some different ones too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So there's two of the minis are exactly the same. 2 of the other heroes are similar heroes but different minis. They're the alternate gender versions, and one of them is not one from a core box.
Cool. So Sodermerk asks, you mentioned digital adventures. Do you have any goal on how many to try to release in a year, or is that still being determined?
Part of that is going to depend on Brian, because we're going to be putting a lot of load on his writing for that. Depends on how that works with some of his other projects. I don't think we're going to start with this pace, but I would like to eventually build towards one a month, or close to that.
Awesome.
Brian, how does that feel for you?
Yeah, once we get 4 or 5 in the hopper, I think as long as they're not released as it's done. You give me a 4-month window, I can probably do that.
Yeah.
Nice. Arhegalos asks, can we expect a more structured game focus from Dawn of Heroes against the freeform focus from Myth Classic?
In general, yes. Like I said in the blog post, adventures drive everything. We're not getting rid of freeform, but it's not the main focus of the game.
All right. Punkbuster asks, Adventures Toolkit has been mentioned in the past. Is that still a thing? And if so, what is it?
Brian?
I can't answer this question without Christian, so I'll just say it's still a thing.
Okay. All right. So there's again, probably work being done along those lines. Nothing definitive, and probably not in the first space.
Right.
All right. Dane asks, is there a rough date on when to expect the Dawn of Heroes Kickstarter?
We're aiming for fall of this year.
For the fall. T-Matt asks, are there any changes to deck building planned? I really like to change the decks, but it happens mostly outside the game, which disconnects it a bit from gameplay.
It's an interesting question. We hadn't looked at doing a lot of deck changing within a scene, but also, I don't think it'll be as much of a deal, because when you're playing an adventure, the scenes are more constrained. It's not just, hey, let's drop another tile down and explore that one. It's, okay, we have finished that scene, and then you can do the between scene things and then go on. Brian, does that seem to jive with your thoughts?
Yeah, each act is divided. You'll hear Eric's terminology, and it's one of the things you listen brought to Myth that makes the whole thing quite a bit more clear. The goal along is then to make it more learnable and more teachable, because it's a pretty heavy lift for beginners. One of those things is normalizing the language. So an act is divided into scenes. Those scenes, at the end of those scenes, which is a tile, usually. Maybe it's 2 tiles. There's a reward, and if the reward is card, then you change that card then. If it's an item, you would get that item then. If it's whatever it is, it happens then before you move to the next scene. And then also the same kind of thing happens between the acts. So everything about the adventures are much more defined, much more easy to understand to a beginner, but much more controllable for someone who has experience with it.
Nice. Kind of going on some of those similar lines. Will Pickle asks, will the adventures have alternate outcomes or paths? Will there be decisions that can take you down different paths, or will they be more on rails?
Yes, that's so. Certainly with the starter set ones, the ones for the base set for Dawn of Heroes, they're going to be a little more guided. But having the possibility of a variety of outcomes is something that I want to explore in the digital adventures much more.
Nice. Arhegelos asks, canvas map of the world with myth, pretty please.
And as I've said, I'm going to share that idea with Ross because I think that would be a wonderful stretch goal for the RPG.
Definitely. Pickle asks, do you have an idea on how you will give the player the feeling of adventure in different areas of the world of myth? Since you're developing such a great world with amazing lore, it'd be nice to feel like we're experiencing different areas.
Yeah, that's actually a big reason that we did the keyword-based darkness decks.
Yes.
So I'll go ahead and spoil a little bit of that. So the keywords that we have right now are things like I mentioned, one of the keywords is novice. So anytime you are playing a novice adventure, you're going to have those sort of base cards usually in the darkness deck because they're kind of the standard. Those are the ones that most resemble the things that you're used to seeing in classic myth, darkness card wise. But then we have keywords like cave or forest or town. And depending on where the adventure is set and what kind of creatures you're facing, that will adjust the darkness deck. So then it really feels like the effects of what the darkness is doing to you changes based on where you are.
Especially things like threat penalty and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Swamp and mountain and ice.
Mm-hmm.
Ocean, we couldn't even do that before.
Right. All right. So yeah, that's definitely a thing that we're playing with.
Nice. And again, I just want to remind people, if you have questions about the prior Kickstarter, go ahead and ask those questions in the in the comments of those Kickstarters. We'll answer those things there. This chat is about World of Myth and the upcoming Dawn of Heroes game. So yeah. Team at
I do want to. I'll just go ahead and say that I know people are very interested in when the miniatures for Journeyman are coming. So am I, and the answer is that there's way too much up in the air on the China side right now. That I have no information. You have all the information I do. We've estimated summer. That's still our estimate. So
all right.
I can't get more specific than that.
Thanks. Yeah. So Tima asks, any chance to get acrylic brigands in the future?
So like all the very special minis, that's something that we're going to have to look at. I'm sure Keith and Brian can tell you all sorts of headaches that they've had with trying to get all the special different varieties of minis. One of the things that we want to make sure of is that Myth has a future. And that means that we have to keep every stretch goal, every product, in a reasonable cost and timeline. So I honestly don't know about that. That I don't
know. All right. Kador asks more questions about the quest cards, but it seems like that's not really part of the new Dawn of Heroes anymore. Will they be usable at all in Dawn of Heroes?
Absolutely. The mechanics are basically the same. The core of the game is the same.
Yeah.
If you wanted to use the old quest cards, you're more than welcome to.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of it'd be kind of like, hey, I'm playing this main adventure. Let's add a side quest. That sort of thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's cool. All right. Endeavor asks, are you going to produce French translated cards with the new cards from the book Kickstarter?
So for the promos that we're releasing with World of Myth, the answer is no. And moving forward, at least we aren't going to. Moving forward, what's going to happen is that translations will be handled as entirely separate products. So the German translation of any future Myth products will be handled by the German Ulysses team, and they will do their own crowdfunding, and they will release their own things at different times when they're ready to. For French, for any other languages, because we do not do those translations in-house, those would be things that we would license to other interested companies. So if a publisher is interested in doing a French version of Myth, they would handle that translation. And that it is not something that we are going to push ourselves in the future, for reasons that I hope are pretty apparent.
All right. T-Man asks, are there any changes to agents?
No, they're a version. They're a different type of monster. So no, and they're still very much part of the lore and very much something that will appear.
Yeah.
Nice. Kadar asks, will the map tiles stay the same?
So Keith can answer
Yeah,
this.
Keith, talk, baby, talk.
Keith, talk about the map tiles. He may be.
Are you muted?
He's muted because he's got kids in the background.
Oh my gosh, you guys, you're mute. I'm here. I'm here. Okay, so the map
You've been
tiles. As
talking
far
in
as
the
I know,
background the whole time.
you're right. I've been like monologuing and spilling everything, and it's all missed. Oh my gosh. Well, too bad, guys. That's too bad. No, as far as I know, I mean, the map tiles that are being tested are the same. You know, and if they find some gameplay changes that enhance those or modify those, I'm sure those can be implemented. But at this point, I don't see any reason why they're not going to be compatible. So yeah, and we'll make some new ones at some point, right?
Yeah.
Yes, of course we are.
Thanks, Keith.
Anytime, guys.
Let's see. Tot asks, will the digital stuff be standalone or will they form a continuing story or theme?
I'd like to have a bit of both. So, you know, one shots and campaign. It's an RPG. You gotta have both.
All right. Phil Kane? I don't know how to say that name. Anyways, says, hey guys, sorry for being late. Was it already mentioned how heroes will be balanced? That the Alchemist won't be 95% in all parties. Oh, so like, will you have to feel like you have to have an Acolyte?
So we are still balancing. Let's say that. So that's I'm unable to say here's how the balancing works quite yet, because that is still happening. But we are definitely aware of the necessity for Acolyte, and that is something we're trying to help alleviate. So.
All right, and Tot asks, will agents change or appear in the Darkness decks?
They would appear in the adventures.
Yeah, adventures are going to have a lot of they have a lot of the information was previously handled through cards.
Cool. Punkbuster asks, are traps compatible between the two versions?
Yes, but they work slightly differently in that the trap will be listed in the book and will have details in the book. If you have the card because you played Myth Original, then fantastic, you can use that card. Information is basically. However, the adventure book's going to actually have the trap in it. So if you don't have that card handy, it's right there to reference.
All right. Arhegelos asks, will there be one massive arching story being unraveled in the Dawn of Heroes adventures with a pre-designed end goal, or will it be a pick up an adventure and play with what you have available?
I want to make adventures that people can play with different levels of commitment, and that involves both lore and story, as well as like product. So if you only own Dawn of Heroes, I want to have adventures that you can play, and if you're into that long-term thing, so yeah, that's
nice.
So a little of both.
Mm-hmm.
This might be a good, Eric. This might be a good time. It would be a good segue to talk about those 18 pages.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good call there, Brian. So I know that some people have been looking at what we've mentioned. Will be in the World of Myth book, and that we've specifically left some things out. The big chunk that we haven't talked about, that I will go ahead and mention now, is while we don't have an actual module in the book because it is a lore book, there's a lot of lore in those modules. So what we have is Brian has done a write-up that is gigantic, that is a few paragraphs about every single module that has ever been released for Myth so far, telling the story of it. And so we've put those all sort of in order. And yeah, so you'll be able to, and that will catch people up, and if you've missed anything, you'll be able to kind of get the whole story of all of the modules that exist.
And you'll find that there was kind of this loose connection between all the modules, and I kind of get into it. So if you've not played all the modules, or you have played them, but you played them in such a way that they were spaced or out of what we would consider the correct order, then you have a kind of the heroes went here and here and here, and all sense in terms of big world map.
Nice. That's exciting. Let's see. Torva asks, any chance of selling art prints separate from the book?
Keith?
Do you want to?
I think that's the answer. So yes, there's a chance. There's definitely a chance.
Sure. We are ready.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing we could do.
Sure.
Nice. The Insider asks, so generally speaking, the new game will use less cards than the old one? I think this was in reference to the trap cards that you had mentioned before.
I think it's in general, yeah, because they want to be able, we want to deliver digital modules you can play, and we always had limits because we always had so many cards that were attached to it, so we always had to print cards, and they can provide all that one adventure that makes it's tight and can be delivered digitally. It's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Filecane again asks, will Dawn of Heroes have some kind of meta management like town building or world progression?
So yeah, it's in. We're working on it.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
That was sort of the thing we talked about.
I will be very careful with this answer.
Okay.
You'll be proud of me. You'll be proud.
I'm sure I will.
That one of the things that I think Ulysses has done an amazing job in Dawn of Heroes is they have made a home on the table for everything. And so there's nothing that's not accounted for in where you place and put things. There's no like loose tokens of this, or where does the darkness deck go, or where does this go, or how do we market this. Ulysses is very, very good, so much better than we were, about organizing things on a table. And while that doesn't answer your question exactly, it kind of answers your question if you read between what I'm saying.
Nice. All right. Kador asking about the one adventure per month. How long will they be? Will they be similar to a module? How much will they cost? Although I'm sure we don't have any of
We
that detail.
definitely don't know cost, but yeah, the idea would be these would be one act adventures for a month, so multiple scenes across a single act. So, Brian, that's about the same as a module, or is that?
Yeah. I mean, because they're so different, yeah.
Yeah, in play length, probably yes, should be.
All right. Tot Donetta asks, you've mentioned the monster packs. Will they have all levels of monster, minion, captain, commander, and boss with a story that uses all of those models?
That is my plan. Yes.
Nice. Foo Fire asks, will the max player count stay the same, or can they be increased?
I mean, it's the sort of thing that we have to be careful, because while we can say, yeah, you could probably add another person, that sort of thing can get out of hand and can be very hard to scale to. We're trying to do more work on the scaling of an adventure based on the number of heroes, but there's definitely a limit to the flexibility that offers, and so we're still kind of figuring that out.
All right. Tot says they definitely want our prints of the cook and gardener heroes, so get on that.
We're on top of it, man. We're on top of it.
God, we are committed to that now.
So Kador asked about the old
tomorrow.
Kador
I'm
asked
drawing right now.
he asked about the old sleeves. Will they be usable? I don't see why they wouldn't be, right?
Yep.
Exercise cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. T Matt says, any changes to the loot/item system? My group always draws 3 bows and 3 quivers when we have no archer or hunter in the group.
Yes, especially because equipment is going to be more persistent. That is a major issue that I am working on that right now. Like, that is, we are trying a bunch of different things to tweak that. But yes, the loot and item system is changing, and it is all based on the idea that the adventures drive things, and we really want it to feel like it's useful to get something. Yeah.
Nice. Arhegalos asks, are you planning to have hero variants like with the monsters? You mentioned the brigand being an elf. Does that change anything mechanics-wise? Will there be a sort of race card with specific benefits and drawbacks, considering the heavier RPG focus?
Not initially, and we don't want to say, like, oh, the Tavian soldier is completely different from the human soldier or anything like that. But that's part of that is we're going to be bouncing off of the RPG a fair bit, and like I said, they're expanding on the lore, especially with the non-humans, and so we will be playing with that a little bit.
All right. Kador asks, we're still using D10s and fate dice, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And fate dice have a lot more importance. They're used a lot more.
Yeah, the fate dice become more important in the new version.
Nice. Tot says in reference to I think the cook and the gardener, you need to stream that drawing process, Keith.
All right.
All right, and Kador asks, can you do more YouTube videos, demo playthrough to get feedback?
So, there are two answers to this. The first is yes, we will do more YouTube videos, especially as we get closer. When we do a public demo, it is not going to be to get feedback. It is going to be to show you the game. We're we're designing the game. We're pretty comfortable with it and what we're doing with it. And public feedback becomes a lot of noise very quickly.
So that kind of goes along the same. Yeah, sure.
May I add?
Sure.
But to put some of you at ease, there are people within the original Myth community who cannot tell who they are because they are under NDA that are playing Dawn of Heroes now. So we get feedback from original players and new players every week.
And so then Torva asks, will you expand your testing group at any point? But it sounds like that answer is no.
No. Yeah, we want to keep our... so we've got a nicely varied group of classic players, players who have been playing a little bit but are designers, and brand new folks who have not even played board games before this, I believe.
Yeah.
So we're really trying to get as much variety as possible, and that's a thing that So I know that last week, and I had mentioned this in Discord last week, a lot of people had concerns that I was fully prepared for. Like I knew exactly a lot of what the classic players were going to say because we have classic players in our feedback group. And these were things that I've already been hearing and thinking about, and I hear you guys, and I definitely understand your interests, and that is a thing that I'm certainly taking into account. But we do have, I think, the feedback, the group that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Phil Kane asks, last question for me. Adventures and modules, will they build up like in the past, such as Weaver's Daughter, and with choose your own, like choose if you want to help out or not options?
Yes. Some. Yes. Many. Yes.
All right. Punkbuster says, any changes to hero card mechanics such as movement modifiers or action, reaction, interrupt types?
Yes. That one,
especially terms.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to talk about that. Again, this is all part of the action economy issue. I swear it will be my next design blog post for Dawn of Heroes, because it's a big thing. It is one of the huge things in Dawn of Heroes, and there's so much that we can't talk about until we explain that part. So yeah, that's definitely going to be something that we'll talk about soon. But so look for that blog post.
All right. And then as a follow-up, any changes to the darkness or monster AI?
Yeah. So we've talked a fair bit about the darkness stack, so definitely do go back and listen to those answers. So that's that. Yeah.
All right. Tiamat asks, is there going to be more synergy effects between heroes?
Interesting question. Don't know yet. So that's it's an interesting thought.
Tot says, are there any heroes getting a massive change, like their whole play style or role has been altered?
I don't think so. Brian, you can speak to this if you think we have, but no, a lot of what we're trying to do is um, really make it so that the if you've played this game before, you know what a hero is expected to do, and the mechanics might on their deck might be slightly different, but you know basically what they're there for.
I would agree with Eric.
All right. Kador asks, is a loot bag still a thing?
So again, this is part of the determination that I'm currently making. I know there has been in our feedback from the classic players, they really like that loot bag, but it makes it very hard to sort of plan for kind of reasonable progression in a story way where equipment persists. So currently, no, but I'm looking at possibilities of ways that maybe I can keep it. But it's if we do, it's definitely going to be a different feel, a different way of addressing it. Loot will be different somehow.
All right, and then we're kind of getting here to the end. So if you got another question, please go ahead and throw it in the chat. Dane, you asked about the Acolyte. We kind of talked about that a little bit before. Basically, we are still working on balancing with all the heroes. So we're definitely working on the Acolyte kind of issue. Definitely something we're aware of. Anything else you guys want to throw in before we call it a day here?
I'll sort of obliquely address Kador's question about is it frustrating that the old stuff is getting in the way? The answer is no. The reason I'm here, the reason Ulysses is here, is because this is a great game. It has so much going for it. We love the cooperative tactical adventure style of this game. It's really amazing. So the old stuff is part and parcel of what has built it. There's and as I've said, I certainly don't feel like it's in way because I want to set up a system where people can continue to play the 2.0 rules for as long as they want with our new adventures, and even with new monsters. And I want to enable that. I don't want this to be a slap down. No, you must abandon everything you've done before. I want to sort of allow for different experiences of myth and acknowledge that they're both definitely valid. That's sort of what I want to aim for.
All right, and Sotomerk asks, the original base heroes had split progression classes. Will this remain, and will all heroes have this option going forward?
Yes. There's a lot there. So that's a thing that, as far as progression goes, we'll have to talk about later. But yeah, in general, as you go up in rank, you should have more options, right? I think so.
Definitely. So yeah, Team Matt has a follow-up. Yeah, does the inclusion of the hunter class in the base game mean she gets a second path?
She will.
All right. Let's see. Here, getting in the end, Dice Timo says, will the optional alternate game modes stay, like Slaughterfield and Tavern mode?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Those are actually in World of Myth.
All right. Brian, Keith, you guys have any last words you'd like to get out there?
Hey, we're great to see y'all back. Fantastic. It's just awesome. So yeah, looking forward to pushing forward with this game.
Yeah. Just we're very thankful to Ulysses for helping us. One, deliver the miniatures, which we wouldn't have been able to do without their help, for bringing order to the chaos that had become Myth. But we can't thank Ulysses enough for respecting the audience. Well, you have no idea. We meet every Friday, and we talk about how it affects past players and future players, and the vision. I mean, they really, really are aware of your desires, and are really fighting to give everything to everybody. So, and you can tell by Eric getting going through all those Excel documents and emails that you guys send. I mean, they really, really are doing a special thing for you.
Nice. All right, Eric, anything you want to leave off with?
I just want to say that we have really been appreciative of the support that World of Myth has gotten. I know it doesn't, in terms of board games, it doesn't seem like, but we have over 550 backers right now, with for over 33,000 on a lore book for a board game that has been out of print for several years. I feel good about that, and I that makes me super excited about the future of this game, and just I can't say how much I appreciate it. It's so great. I really thank you all.
All right. Well, I'm Robert Adducci. I do the social media for Ulysses. So it was great to be here, and thank you everybody for asking questions. Thanks Eric, Keith, and Brian for being here and for chatting with everybody and giving everybody answers to their questions. I'm sure people will have more questions. Maybe we'll do another one of these later, and I'm sure we'll do more as we as Dawn of Heroes starts coming out and more adventures coming out. We'll definitely be here to chat with everybody. So thank you guys for being here, and thanks everybody for asking questions, and we'll see you on the Kickstarter, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the Myth channel on the Discord more often.
Yeah. Thanks everyone.
Bye bye.
Have a good one. Yep. Bye.